that story that we're told, that as we age, everything goes downhill, that's not what it is. And I can tell you that if you take care of your body, you can get to up to 70, 80 years old and still be lifting weights and still be running and still be like having that vibrancy that you would want. It's a complete lie that at 50 you're already in downhill. But it takes hard work.
Welcome back to another episode of High Value Discussions. In this episode, we have someone who embodies the balance between strength, mindfulness, movement, and stillness. My guest is a decorated yoga and fitness instructor and the host of the Seeker podcast. She's all about helping others transform, whether it be physically, mentally, and spiritually. From leading a high-energy workout, guiding deep meditative breath work, or sparking powerful conversations on her podcast, she's committed to helping people grow in every aspect. Her journey is one of discipline, self-discovery, and relentless pursuit of knowledge. Through the Seeker podcast, she dives into conversations that challenge perspectives, inspire self-improvement, and encourage others to seek more out of life. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Atziry Vasquez.
It almost feels like a celebration of of everything that I've done so far. It hasn't been easy. It's been hustle. It's been a lot of tears, a lot of building yourself up, and I'm gonna get emotional. Anyway, but let's go where you said about my upbringing.
Yes, I would like to go in the very beginning of things, of how your upbringing in your childhood was like.
Okay, well, I am originally from Mexico City. I was born and raised there until 18, and when I was 18, I came here. So I grew up with my dad's side of the family. My parents got divorced when I was little, so my mom left when I was 5, and I grew up with my grandma, my aunt, my uncle. They've been my family. Like I couldn't say I didn't have a mom, because I had multiple. I had my aunt, I had my grandma, I had my other aunts, and everybody kind of came together for us, for me and my sister. I have one sister. She's three years younger than I am. So I'm the oldest, and it's just us two. And growing up, we went to Catholic school, private schools. That's where we picked up the English a little bit, and so it made it easy for us to to come over here. What else about my childhood? I don't know. I was pretty into sports. I was training volleyball for a long time, and the team got to travel and also play in some states in Mexico. And so, that was, to me, it was building, yes, you get strong, you get, all these things through sports, but also it was about my friends and community that you get to get from playing, right? Mm-hmm. So that is probably one of the best memories I have from high school, just mm-hmm. playing in my volleyball team. And I think that also was the seed for me to be very into wellness, and just I never stopped since I was little. I was always doing something related to sports and activities building yourself strong.
Yeah. So. Did you have that? Because when people start to prioritize their fitness and their wellness, something happens, whether they have a health scare or things in their life are just not going accordingly. Mm-hmm. And then they start to decide where I need to make a change here. But for you, it seemed like fitness and wellness was always in your life. I think as you just got older, you just enhanced it.
Well, I guess we'll come to that and why it became like such a big thing in my life. But it's always been there. It's always been there. It's always been something that my body asks and needs to feel at ease. So initially, I think growing up, it was just being part of like the group. You know, it was just having fun. And then when we came here, I kind of stopped for a little bit because I was just trying to, adjust to everything that that was happening. It was a completely new world for me. You know, just catching up with the English and then the places, the weather, people. We got like ripped off from like our home and just, I mean, anyone who's been an immigrant knows. Yeah. And then here, I think I continued to go to the gym and like swim. I would swim, lift weights, did Pilates, did spinning, everything that I could do, like fine. And it was just for fun too. Fun, but also for aesthetic, like looks. That was like the first like thing that I knew I could control about my life. I think that's where, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah, because a lot of things were out of my control moving here. And so I think that the way I looked and the way I felt in terms of like my physical self, that's where I took control of my body.
Everything kind of clears, you know? I feel like when you prioritize your health and your fitness and your wellness, everything changes in your life, everything. And that's probably the biggest thing that we like to kind of pour out to people, is be that example for them. They're like, man, why do you have this certain glow to you? Like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? You're prioritizing your wellness. And then you're a walking example of that, because I always notice that when people are prioritizing their health, they look different. It's not more of like their physique and their looks, but they have this energy, this glow to them that is very, very uncommon. And then it attracts people, not like, oh my God, look at you. It's more like, I want to be around you because I want to know how you think. I want to know how you move. I want to know how you act. I want to know how you represent yourself. The older I get, the more clear-headed I get, the more physically strong I get. It's very strange. You hear that term, it's like the older you get, the harder it is. I don't think that's accurate. I think when you maintain it and you build it properly and recover properly, it's like the mind, the body, they all take care of itself.
Yeah, definitely. I see that story that you're saying, like the older you get, you're like, oh, I'm getting older, like, oh my God, I can't get out of here, like, all this injuries come and you start to gain weight. But that's not true. That I did not subscribe to that story. After having my girls, I was like, I did everything in my power to get back. And not that you get back to where you were, because that's never gonna happen. But you actually come back stronger. I was hungry. Like after, I mean, not hungry because I was starving during my pregnancies. That's another thing. Not hungry, but like, that hunger of like striving and to build yourself up again. But that only happens when you've been like down there, where you were broken down and you're like, bottom. Only then you get hungry, and then you start to work hard. It's hard work. It's getting up early. It's being okay being sore. It's it's rushing to get your workout done. Organizing yourself around your family. It is. I don't want to call it a sacrifice, because it's not. It's just a matter of organizing your life in a way that you prioritize your health. Because it's the biggest investment that you're going to ever make. Yeah. So that story that we're told, that as we age, everything goes downhill, that's not what it is. And I can tell you that if you take care of your body, you can get to up to 70, 80 years old and still be lifting weights and still be running and still be like having that vibrancy that you would want. It's a complete lie that at 50 you're already in downhill. But it takes hard work.
And it breaks my heart too, because when I do say I'm surrounded by like my mother's friends and they're all like, say, 50 plus, and they always have that sentence where, man, when I was your age or this and that, it's like, man, you can still be doing it. I always walk on this day to day where like I want to get older. I really, really do. Like I want to be 80 and 90 years old. And I want to be that grandfather where their grandkids pull me away out of the chair. Grandpa, come play with us on the tree. Let's go climb it. I'm like, let's go. Let's go to the playground. Let's be active. Like I always want to be that person, but where does that start? It starts when I'm doing it in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, etc. It's a day-to-day thing.
Yeah.
It's never like a one and done thing where, oh, I have this physique and I could just leave it alone. It's like, nope, there's continuous polishing. Just like when you read a book, it doesn't mean you know everything. You know, you want to read as much literature as you possibly can. Just because you get a degree doesn't mean you're educated. It's the continuous learning that makes you educated.
Yeah.
I know people get attracted by your energy. I know people get attracted by the aura that you represent, but you also want to guide them properly. So what do you think are the best ways to guide somebody to change their mindset about their fitness and their wellness?
It's very individual, I think. Mainly just knowing what's the most difficult for them, like what is their challenge, you know, and then breaking that down. Because when they tell you, oh, you know, it's almost like it's whatever it is, it's in their mind. Whatever it is that it's keeping them from doing certain things, it's just an idea, a concept that they just believed in. And so it's a matter of like taking that apart and really looking deeply and saying, okay, why don't you start small? You know, why don't you start with like, maybe just start with this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or, you know, and the main thing that I always try to bring to awareness and to people that come to me and they tell me they're trying to justify their lack of, you know, and I'm like, no. First of all, you have to be kind to yourself, kind in your mind, because whatever you tell yourself is going to turn into a chemical in your body, and then you're going to experience that, you know? So thoughts alone are going to shift the way you are physically. And now that there's a lot more science on this stuff, I'm like so interested in all this stuff. Actually, I was watching this series from Dr. Joe Dispenza and all the like amazing science that he's bringing forward, and studies that he's been doing with people, like how thoughts, you know, changed your physical self. So in that sense, I want to bring that to people. I want to tell them and I want to show them that we first begin in here and we become aware of our thought patterns first, right? Because then we believe that those thoughts are always going to be there and then they're never going to change. And that's another thing. We start to turn ourselves into victims of our own thought patterns that we have created. So what are we doing, right? I think meditation is one of the things that snaps you out of that, that helps you see, you know, those thought patterns and that you are not your thoughts, right? So I think for me, that's the first thing that I try to like see and talk to them first, right? Because the physical strength, the physical expression of the body comes after that. You cannot force the body into certain shapes or into certain strength if the mind is not at a certain place. Otherwise, you're going to bring yourself into injury.
Another thing, it's like people's attention and their environment is a very big thing too, because what they're putting their attention towards, whether it's the news, parties, alcohol, drugs, the wrong people in their circle, it's another big progress killer.
I don't know, I don't want to get in trouble for saying this, but looking at people that go to yoga studios these days, and they take classes that are very intense in terms of like building muscle and, you know, cardio and all that stuff, which is not really yoga, but is very popular because it's so intense, and people come out of there like, oh my God, I did something so intense. Like, it's a good feeling. I don't blame them. It's good. You get this rush. But I've seen them years after years going at the same time, and I looked at their bodies, and I'm not trying to judge in any way. I'm just observing, and I'm thinking, what is happening that there are no like major changes in this? And like what you were saying is the lifestyle balance too, because if you think that just by showing up once or twice or 3 times a week to do your practice at a studio, then you can go out and drink and stay up late and do all these things that actually hurt your body even more. It's it's like you're never gonna get anywhere. You're always gonna stay in the same comfort zone. Yeah. So it does take a little bit of discomfort, getting uncomfortable with discipline, doing things that you usually wouldn't do, and I think, just recently I came aware of this thing that it was, I guess, very popular, 75 hard. I had no idea that thing existed. Like my friend was telling me, I was like, what is this? We were creeping on somebody's Instagram, me and my friend, and I'm like, look, what is that? She's like, yeah, this is a thing. It was like very popular. Did you do it? No? Oh, okay. Because I was like,
I know a lot of people who did it, and I'm very, I get a little weirded out when it comes to challenges.
Really?
There is no, to me, it's like 75, 82, 12, 6 weeks. It's like, why don't you do this every day?
Yeah. No, and like what I was saying is, it's just taking the first step.
Yes. It's an introduction, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. And if it gets to build a momentum, then amazing.
Yeah.
You feel like you're part of something, everybody's doing it, and you're showing your progress, you're feeling the progress too, because you're sticking to it, and you're keeping yourself accountable. So in that sense, I liked it. Yes. I liked the idea. And that's where you actually start to get a little taste of what could come, of what you could become if you keep going, right? So nothing wrong with challenges. I never done it, but I can see the real benefit in taking 1-2 steps forward in your health journey. So. Yes.
The only thing that's like somewhat of a hindrance is that word challenge, and once that challenge is done, it's almost like back to normal.
And you're right. I see that because at the studio we have also these like 30-day challenges, and the studios are like this, yes. Every classes are like full, and everybody starts so like motivated. Beginning of the year, January, it's like everybody's there and very consistent. And then I'm like, at the end of January, I'm like, guys, you guys are gonna show up in February, right? Like, please don't leave, right? You've come this far. Keep showing up for yourself. You're not doing this for anybody else but yourself, and you're the only one who's going to experience the benefits of it. Even if it's not bringing yourself into a studio to do the workout or the practice, anywhere, it doesn't have to be a certain place. It helps when you have a designated space for your practice or your workout, but it's not an excuse to skip the maintenance of your beautiful machine that you carry. When I started teaching, I realized that I had to keep my body in a certain state to be available to be a guide. And at the beginning, I was always very nervous to speak in front of a lot of people. So finding my big girl voice took a while. And I'm so grateful that everybody was so patient with me just for the first months that I started teaching, because it definitely helped that people were still showing up, you know? But to teach a fitness class, it takes every ounce of your being. You have to be physically at your best. I like to demo some things. So yeah, you have to be at a certain place in your body to be able to embody what you're guiding them, right? Mentally, you also have to be kind of sharp. Intellect has to be sharp. For that to happen, you have to eat well, you have to rest well, and you have to keep everything that you nurture your body with, um, things that are actually going to help you grow, all the things that enter your five senses are things that are you become, right? So all the things that you watch, the things that you listen to, the things that you become in touch with, all those things are going to be part of you. So always being aware of how you nurture yourself in that sense. Another thing, emotionally, excuse my language, but shit could be happening around your around you in your life, and you still have to show up a blank slate there. You have to make yourself 100% available for that moment, even if it's just 1 hour of you being there for them. It has to be a blank slate. And one of the things that really helps me kind of reset myself, is I take a quick rinse. I shower before teaching, and it helps me a lot. It helps me clean. Water not only cleanses your physical body, it also cleanses your aura. So it removes a lot of the things that you carry that you're not very aware of. So for me to show up there as, not, I don't want to say as clean, but it's as blank as possible, is I take a shower before teaching, and just making sure that, honestly, it doesn't take that much to be fully present, because you're not you don't stop talking the whole time. You're like talking and yelling, and looking at them, and like being there, like fully present. I think that is one of the things that I enjoy the most about guiding these classes, that I have this like buildup of energy, and like listening, and like the music, and being there, and being present, and like being there with them, motivating them, and knowing that I am pushing them, yes, because I know that they're capable of more. And I told them one day, I'm like, hey guys, I have 2 girls. Believe me, like whatever I say to you, it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place that I know that you still have 2 more seconds in you to hold that. And it's just your mind telling you to stay comfortable. So there's never going to be any growth. So, I'm like hoping that they're not like, oh my God, just stop yelling at me now. But when they come out, they're, smiling, and they're like happy, and say thank you. And, so I think it's a good thing. In terms of guiding a fitness class, mostly is about knowing in your body what you're asking of them. Like you getting like to experience what you're asking them, because it comes from now when you talk about it and when you guide them, it comes from a place of experience, and a place of like also empathy, right? That's when you can actually be to the very last moment and push them a little bit more, because you already been there. You're like, I was there, I know how you feel, but believe me, you still have this much more to give. And so for instructors, take the class that you're teaching, do it yourself, bring yourself into that moment of like failure, I mean, and like in terms of muscle, um, when you're about to, like, when you're shaking and you're like, I can't do this anymore, bring yourself into that place. Because otherwise, how are you going to talk? How are you going to ask anybody to do anything if you've never done it before? So always, at least I like to take the class, certain amount of times, and just to remind myself that what I'm asking is not easy. Um, but we have so much more potential that we like to believe. So it's just that I don't think I don't think the instructors are ever trying to bring things that are wrong. This is um yeah, I think it's just that talking from a genuine place.
How important is it to you? You're leading example as the guider, but also leading by example when it comes to being a mother, because you're teaching your kids that without them maybe not noticing it because they're still so young, but as they get older, they'll remember those moments. They'll
Mm-hmm.
remember like, mommy's working hard. Mommy always took care of herself, and it's almost laying down that principle to them. It's like, hey guys, like, you want to prioritize your fitness, your wellness, your whole mentality. You got to show up for yourself every single day. But
Mm-hmm.
that comes from what they see on a day-to-day basis. So how important is that for you?
Well, right now, the way they experience my fitness and my health journey, it's like it's a little distant because they don't see me actually doing these things. They just see absence from me. It's just times that mommy's not around because she's teaching a class, because she's going to the gym, because she's, doing her meditation. When I meditate, I actually have to go into, a private space, and I don't let them go in there because um, once the process starts, um, you can't stop it. And part of the practice, yes, is to be able to like go in, and not thinking too much about what's happening outside, like the noise or the sounds that could be happening. But when they come to me and they like want to touch me or say, "Hey, mommy," like get my attention, then that is not really allowing my practice to happen, my meditation to happen the way it should be. So I do go into a separate room, and so they don't really, they're like, "Oh, she's leaving us again," But what they experience is when I come back a little bit more stable, a little bit more available emotionally, because I was able to like empty the cup, right? And so I'm a little bit more available, more calm with them. My meditation practice completely changed my relationship with my daughters. Like before, I was very impulsive in the way I would react to things. And because they were little, they were crying a lot. So I was always living in that state of, fight or flight. I was in my sympathetic the whole time from the moment they were born and for years. That's why I got through. That's why I had postpartum depression with my second one. And just the crying and the, not sleeping. Back to back, my girls are like 1 year and 5 months apart. So when one of them was 8 months, I was pregnant. When when my second one was born, the other one started walking, and so it was like a newborn, a C-section, and a toddler just started walking during pandemic. So it was like a lot of things kind of piled up. And the moment I didn't realize what was happening, like all these things that were oh, like, oh my God, this is a lot. I was I was in survival mode, like just trying to keep my baby alive and myself just above water. It was crazy. I mean, it's just a lot of beautiful moments too. I can't now that I look back at the memories and I look at the pictures and I'm like, yeah, I smile.
Yeah.
Now I smile. But before it was like tough. It was tough. And your body takes such a toll. I was You have to think about what the body goes through after giving birth. You go to trauma, and then a human life depends on you 100%. And so, yeah, for months I would be crying every day, just not knowing that if I was doing enough. But when studios started to open up, when the yoga studios started to open, actually no, I started when they were both sleeping at the same time, when I managed to sync their naps, because they were napping at different times, my newborn, my first one, she was napping like twice a day, and then my newborn, she was napping the whole, like, different times, like random times. But when I managed to like sync at least one of their naps, that was like gold for me, because I got to shower, I got to exercise like 20 minutes. I remember, like, get them in bed, like when I put them to sleep, I'm like, whoop, run to the other room, jump on my bike. I would do in my stationary bike, just like 15-20 minutes, get off the bike, and then started doing like little strength workouts, which actually I downloaded the Peloton app at that time, and I started just working from the app at home. And I started small. Like, I started with 10-minute workouts with 5-pound weights, and that was it. I mean, I was like, and I say this in Spanish, me daba por bien servida. If I could do that, just give me 20 minutes. That's all I was asking. Shower. I was like, thank you, God, I can shower. Then I was like, that was a big, like, breath of fresh air for me during that time. Then the studio started to open up, and so I was able to like go at least for one class, take the time for myself, and to start healing all that stuff that was like embedded in my head, these ideas of who I think I was or I wasn't enough, because it was the same thing. I wasn't enough. During one of my practices, I remember there's this well, at that time I was just kind of searching for my spiritual guides, just trying to find my, some people call them angels, some people call them ancestors, spirit guides, your higher self. There's so many names for those who are guiding you all the time. And I was taking one of my practices at the studio. There's this posture where, it's a big heart opener. You go into a back bend, and a lot of things get released at that time. But that day I was just, my question in my mind was just like, where are you? Who are you? Like, I want to know. I need you, right? And the first like things that came to my mind were, I am you and I am here. And so we start to think, right, of ourselves in terms of the divine, or the Holy Spirit, or whatever you think it is, related to your belief system, or whatever you carry in your family or in your culture. And we think that big like part of ourselves that we're looking for in terms of guidance is somewhere outside of us. It's something out there, somewhere in the sky, right? Somewhere else. But it's right here. Everything that you need is right in here. We just need to take a second and stillness and dig deep. Take out all that garbage that you've been putting into your body. Thoughts, emotions, memories, all those things. They just, because you are. you are part of the creation, you're part of the divine, you're part of, whatever you want to call it. So, and that moment was very like breakthrough for me. It was like those words just stayed with me for a long time, and they are still very true to what how I see myself. You know.
How long did you, I would say, deal with that darkness? Because every time, it's so strange how when we deal some sort of difficulty, things get better. It's very odd. When there's challenge that arises, when things are quite difficult in our lives, and then when we get past that phase, when we beat that, when we accomplish that, we win that victory, our life gets better. It's
Mm-hmm.
very odd, right? How long was that process for you where you were, say, stuck, lost in a depressive state, maybe postpartum? How long was it before you got yourself out?
Postpartum depression was like the last drop in the cup for me in terms of depression, because I actually was experiencing chronic depression prior to that from moving into another country. And, people don't really talk about it that much because, we're just trying to survive, Um, and so we keep our minds off that. We keep our minds distracted, maybe drinking, maybe through entertainment, just watching TV, just eating and, going through the motions of life. But really reflecting on it and just analyzing the way I was carrying myself through those years. I was constantly just at night before going to bed just thinking how much I missed my childhood, how much I missed my home, and crying. It was there would be like days straight of like every night just saying the same thing, but I never really paid that much attention to that or think that was that I was going through depression, during those years. And then uh, hormonally, physically, emotionally, with with my second girl, it was like everything just came out like out, right? And I think honestly, I mean, if answering your question after my second girl was born, it was probably 3 years of going through that until I was able to really, I was working out still during those times. I was doing my practices. No, I wasn't meditating at that time. So really, when the big shift happened in me was when I started meditating. That was like when everything just took a complete turn for me in terms of how I saw myself and the things that I really wanted from life. Because I was a slave of alcoholism. I was a slave of, you know, telling the stories about myself that weren't true. And I think that once I started meditating, it was it was like I created this separation from all those ideas that I had before about my life and this curiosity I had about who I could be if I just pushed this to the side for a second, took a step back, looked at myself, and I was like, I think I have this huge potential. Let's explore that. So the moment I sat myself in stillness, that's when everything shifted for me.
Did you ever think that you would get yourself out during that 3 years?
No, no, not really. No, because you don't know that you're there. You think because everything's so normalized, and it's just a way of coping. You're just surviving, but you're not thriving. So, and it comes with the environment too, by the people that you surround yourself. I was surrounded by people who were also and like drinking and like, just kind of going through the motion, and they had families too, and and it was fine. All of that was fine. And so being part of those circles, in a sense, it makes it okay. You don't see it until you just kind of take a step back, and you're like, okay, this is not what I want from my life. This is not who I want my girls to see. So I think mainly the main like propeller for me was my girls, making sure that they would look back and see someone who they would be, I don't want to say proud of, but at least someone who they could like have this sweetness inside for, like this love for. Yeah. Instead of like, oh, my mom was a mess, and like, and she messed me up too. At the end, you're like, yeah.
You speaking like that, it's like I didn't know I was lost either. I remember when I was a fighter, I lost 2 fights in a row, and my whole being was fighting. It's all I wanted to be was a world champion. It's all I wanted to be. And then when you lose in a professional level, you question everything, especially when you lose very badly, especially in front of your friends, your family, all that time you invested with your coaches and your team, and then things don't go the way that you wanted to. So during that whole year of, like, say, questioning, scratching and clawing, I was just like, man, who am I? What am I doing? Like, I was literally questioning my whole existence because all I thought I was just a fighter. That's all I thought I was. That's all I thought I was good at.
Yeah.
But kind of conquering that demon and coming back after that, it's like, oh, I'm more than this.
Yeah.
I'm more than just that.
Definitely. And I think that is one of the things that I also was reflecting on recently, that we are so many things, and we choose to attach ourselves to just like one little part of our built personality, built persona that we created, right? We choose. And there's all these different things that we can be,
Yeah.
In the end, I am a mother, but I'm not just that, and I'm not gonna let that define everything else that I do. I'm not gonna play the role of like stay at home mom and just cook and just clean the house and that's it, because yeah, I do that. I do that every day, but I'm not just that, and it's a little hard for the generation before us, like older generations, to really like see the human as a multidimensional being, because we've been programmed to choose one career, choose one path. What do you want to be when you grow up? A doctor, or whatever it is, I wanted to be an architect when I was going to college, and I kept changing my mind. I kept changing from interior design to architecture to oceanography to like psychology and all these things that I wanted to explore. I wanted to know about everything. I wanted to know about, I was into art, so like a lot into art. And that's why I like to like dress myself. And people ask me like, where do you get your style? I'm like, I have no idea. And they like at work, they're like, how did you,
It's unique. It's different.
And I'm like, I don't really know. But now because people are asking me, I'm trying to reflect. I'm like, yeah, why am I this way? And I think since I was probably my teenage years, I was always drawing. I was very into art. So I took a lot of art classes when I was in college, and a lot of interior design, and so a lot of that, aesthetic things that came from creating, putting your hands and making things with your hands, all that stuff was really cool for me. And yeah, and then once I was like, okay, well, what more? And I was like into architecture, okay, something serious, because then I was like, I can't live from art, right? So at least in architecture, you get to express yourself a little bit you know.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh my God, all these math classes. No, get me out of here. I had to take physics. I'm like, no, I can't do that. So I'm like, okay, what's next? And then I was like looking at oceanography because I love, studying nature. And I had I had like a whole zoo at my house at some point. You can ask my sister about that because I lived with her at that time. But oceanography was another thing. I had to take physics again. I'm like, no. Okay,
like,
what's the next?
There's no escape.
Yeah, there's no escape. No, you cannot escape math, by the way, guys. No, just get it done. Like, first thing you do when you get to college, just get your physics, your math, get it all done.
Oh.
Because you're going to need it at some point.
Yeah.
And not in life, just for if you want to get a diploma or certificate, whatever. And then I was very, very, very interested in human behavior. Like, that was like a big, like, it was just like I could spend hours in my psychology classes and my cultural anthropology and like anything that had to do with human behavior, like how our mind and our body works. And I think that's why I'm here now with with the things that I'm doing now, because I've always been very fascinated about how this works. I mean, what better thing you could invest your time in, like getting to know this a little bit better, so you can have a somewhat of a nicer, easier, happier life.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that by knowing all these things, that knowledge is gonna bring you to that embodiment of that knowledge.
Yeah.
It takes processes. It's a whole process of really inputting all that data and making it part of yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated with all of that. And so I think that when we're asked to choose just one path, then we forget, right? All the potential that we have. We marry ourselves with this one idea of like, this is all I can do. And it's like we put on these blinders, right? And we just walk straight. Tick, 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 tick. It's a way of seeing life that is just honestly to keep us controlled and small and trapped. So, it takes a little bit of courage to step out of that lane and to really see that, wow, like I could be so many things but it's scary. It's scary because you feel like the only thing it's safe. You feel safety in that path that they've given you. Because did you choose? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But it's scary to step out into the unknown, because it is, right? But going into the whole, like, now I love to learn about physics, coming back full circle. Now I'm so into quantum studies.
Yeah.
Quantum physics, like how this, like, the universe works. Like, wow. Like, I could, yes. Yeah. Give me all of that. Like, anything that has to do with quantum stuff. And so going back to that, possibilities that are endless, and we live in that field.
And I think it's also important too, like when you've done something great once, you can do multiple things great as well.
Mm-hmm.
And something that we were kind of talking about off air is, you starting a podcast, and you were saying like, oh, it's another baby, it's another tool, it's another business nearly. What was the whole pursuit of, say, starting a show and starting a podcast?
Well, I was driving to LA one time, and it was like the first time I was in the car for that long by myself, right? And I was watching these series, an open mind. It's called Open Minds, and the host is Regina Meredith. She interviews people, and a lot of things are spiritual, but there's a lot of different things. And Gaia, the Gaia community is it's just amazing for all the spiritual stuff and health also. But I was like, I was just on that show for hours. I could not stop watching it. I'm like, this is so interesting. Like, what else? Like, what else? The first one I watched was about biohacking with Dave Asprey. That was like, whoa. I was like, yes, what else? Like, I want to know more. I want to know more. So here's the thing. Whatever you choose to create, whatever you choose to bring into a platform, either YouTube, Instagram, whatever you choose to do, it has to be something that you're interested in, that something that you would like to know more of, right? So just looking at that, I was like, I was invested for hours watching that show. And when I looked at her, I was like, I can do that. I would love to do that. I would love to talk with people and bring the message forward. It was about bringing a message to people that need it, because we gravitate towards those things that we need. It's kind of trusting that you are guided, you know. So whoever ends up watching what I'm bringing forward, I am faithful and trustful that they are watching that for a reason. So I was like, yeah, let's start, talking. And at that time I started talking with a friend, and he's a physical therapist. His name is Phil Lee. That was the first episode I recorded. And he loves to talk about like how to keep yourself, from getting hurt, from, just getting burned out, and just really basic things to get you started to take care of your body. I was like, this is great. This is what people need to know. Anytime I'm talking with somebody and they're passionate about what they know, and it's like a moment that I have. I'm like, that light bulb ding. It's like, I need to record this. I need to show people. I need to tell people. It's like, it was like that. It was like the messenger. And it also made it in a way that I wasn't that nervous to be on camera, because I was the one asking the questions. I was like, yeah, just tell me what you know.
It's a little different now, huh?
I'm just gonna. Yeah, no, it's not. It's so different now. I'm like, oh, you got me crying here. But also another thing that I remember watching from a master class of this, I can't remember her name now, but she's been on the news, and she was teaching people how to, be good on camera, all that stuff. But the thing that stuck the most from that, it was that she said, whatever it is that you choose to share with the world, it's the message that you're bringing forward. It has to be something that has touched you in such a way, And then she said this, your pain is your message. And so for me to open up about all these things, I haven't really shared this on social media about like my girls, about my pregnancies, about my depression, alcoholism, all that stuff stayed in the drawers, because I was like, initially you just want to share things that people are like excited to know about, things that are like just easy on the mind, nothing too intense. But there comes a time when you choose to put yourself out there, because you're not the only one. Because whatever it is that you went through, your pain, right? It's going to open up so much for others. So hoping that it brings healing also into the world. The moment you start to heal yourself and open up about these things, that's when you start to heal everything else around you. So although it's a little heavy on my heart to share these things sometimes. It's necessary.
I find it therapeutic.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like this is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I know during COVID, it kind of put a halt on people's communication, you know, but this face to face, eye to eye, breathing each other's air, this is a necessity. This is a thing that needs to be done often by the right people. You know, like you and I, we have a podcast, and one of the obligations with having a show is you want to feed it right. You know, you want to make sure it's like the right people are coming on here. You know, my podcast is called High Value Discussions. It's like we've been going for over an hour and you've been giving nothing but value. You know, but I made sure it's like I do my homework, you know, when it comes to like the people that I have on, because I am very particular and I'm very picky because I want to feed it right. Like you said, the message. What is the message? Value in any possible way. Everybody who comes on here, they bring a different formula.
Yeah.
They bring a different energy. They bring a different skill set, but they all bring value to the table. And that's the mission, and that's the whole message. Because when people click on this, it's like, man, I got value out of this.
Yeah. You kind of empty yourself a little bit and open some room for wisdom that's out there just waiting to pour through you. But when we fix ourselves into certain ideas and beliefs and things that we've been collecting from impressions around us, you know, we kind of block ourselves from all like this wisdom that could come. And so first accepting that you might not know everything, and whatever you think you know, it might not even be true. So just making some room. You know, when we go through crisis, they happen to snap us out of our like comfort. But if it didn't happen in a crisis form, you would never get out of there. No. You would never get pushed out of to like keep walking.
Yes.
And yes, they're difficult. They're hard to deal with. You know, you might be in pain, you might be crying, you might be suffering, whatever it is. But all those things are also teachers, and they're probably the most powerful teachers that you'll find. These things don't come when things are easy, you know. The actual and I was doing a little video about this the other day about like the emotions that are uncomfortable to experience, that we like shut them out, like we keep them out, we try to suppress them and like not really acknowledge them, you know. But when these things present to you, one, they're trying to teach you something about yourself, and if you ignore that, you're missing out an opportunity to transform. Because every uncomfortable thing that you go through, it's we call them shadows, but they can also be seeds for change. And it's up to you to recognize that they are actually a seed of transformation. So you water that thing, you take care of that, you see it, that it transforms and that it grows. Because you have no idea what it could become. I mean, do you even like, it like still blows my mind how like this tiny little seed can grow into this huge tree. And we think that things that we experience are just that. They're just pain. They're just suffering. I just don't want to experience it. I just don't want, I don't want to deal with it. It's just, no. They are teachers. That's how I like to see it now. And so whenever something hard, difficult, whatever it is happening, I'm like, okay, yes, like, let me just take a second, right? What is it here to show me? It wants to show me something. and just like open your eyes and look deep. Actually, what I was telling you, this is like a celebration for me. Celebration of where I'm standing. It feels like a stable ground where I can actually now reach down and hold hands. Where I can like say, hey, we got this, you know? So the stage, you know, the lights, the cameras, the microphone, the platform that we're gonna be on, that is just to show that there are people that are now standing on unstable ground, but we keep doing the work. We're still working hard, but we're there to show and to help. Because only through embodiment of what you do is that you actually start to spark people. You know, you standing there doing the work, and then people look at you, they're like, okay, yes, like I maybe I can, and then you coming in and telling your story. This is not how it's always been. I've not always been here, right? It's a process, and we're here for everybody. This is not just about me. This story is about everybody, about humankind. That's the main reason why I started the podcast, why I'm now building this where I can offer yoga for free, and other things that I have, little projects that you guys will soon see. They are just to raise human consciousness. That is the main goal in all of this. It just doesn't, I could never think that this only benefits me. We're all in this together, so you guys, we got this.
Honestly, well, this is the first time, we're getting together and meeting. And I want to thank you for bringing a lot of value to this, honestly. Like, you really blessed the show. You've, time is my love language, so you blessed my time as well. And I really want to thank you for that. And I hope we get to do this again really soon.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Daniel. It was really a pleasure to be here.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you are listening on Apple Podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by it with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, and stay excellent.